Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive Papa Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Papa.
The Alliance blog, the Alliance. The Alliance blog, the Alliance blog, the Alliance blog, the Alliance blog. Alliance? If you put an S in front of Alliance, you have Salience. That's me.
Podcasting out of Alliance Wrestling Studios, pontificating on pro wrestling, the innovator of Talk NWA, he is J.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Alliance Blog Podcast, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com. This week, we have a special guest joining us, Tank Toland. Some of you guys will remember Tank Toland from his time with Ohio Valley Wrestling. Some of you guys might remember him from his time with Ring of Honor. I'm excited because he's going to be in Riverton, New Jersey on September the 28th for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. We're going to talk to Tank all about his time in the world of professional wrestling, what drives him in the world of professional wrestling, and a lot more. So without any further ado, I'm going to welcome to the show, Tank. How are you, man?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. So I'm a big fan of Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. I live out here on the West Coast, but I try to keep up with the shows via YouTube, and we talk quite frequently with Jaden and Dr. Lawrence Zirconium and some of the guys over there at Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. I got to know, how did you get hooked up with those guys over at DAWG, and what can you tell me about working with that promotion?
It's a great promotion and a lot of fun whenever I do the shows. I'd say, I have to say, I started doing some shows for them, I want to say about maybe 5 years ago or something. I don't know. It's been a while. It's been a long time working for them on and off whenever, they want to bring me in. And it's a lot of fun each and every time. A really well-run show. Everybody I've worked with from in-ring to backstage have been just great people. So I don't know, I guess it's been about 5 years, and it's been, a lot of fun every time. So definitely appreciate whenever they want to, bring me in and, let me do my thing.
I know one of the first events that you did with them was, I think it was back at the community center in Little Egg Harbor, where you took on, and I'm going to kill this guy's name, so I apologize in advance, Tunku Amur. And I think that was your first appearance for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. Does that sound right to you? Back in 2019?
I don't know. It may have been. I remember that match because I think also he was pretty new at the time. I think he was pretty new in the business, and it was. I was pleasantly surprised at how well he did, considering the amount of time he had in the ring, if I remember correctly. And I remember it wasn't. I remember it wasn't the shits. So that's a good thing, right?
That's a great thing when somebody new to their business is not the shits. That's always a good thing. Yeah,
and I'll tell you, because I can remember like my first matches, in the ring outside of the Monster Factory, doing my first independent shows, and I was green as goose shit and nervous as hell. So it was could have gone either way. So I was really lucky that I had some good matches as well, and but I know what it's like to be in those shoes. So I always feel for someone when they're new in the business and they're green, so.
Is that where you got your start, was the Monster Factory?
Yeah. I started at the Monster Factory. I got my start when I was in like third grade watching WWF. But
let's talk about third grade, man. Let's talk about like what got you into wrestling, because that's the question I always am curious about. Like I love wrestling, freaking talk about it, podcast about it, but I never took the step that you took. I never went from fan to wrestler. I've always just been the person watching on the outside. What drew you to the sport of pro wrestling?
Man, I would say first off, it was just, the size of these guys. They're like real life superheroes, obviously.
Right.
And I was a pipsqueak when I was a kid, and I was bullied. I've told that story a few times on podcasts, and that was a real driving factor was I was just a small kid, skinny, and I knew I wasn't going to be tall. But when I saw these guys, I was like, I might not be able to be tall, but I might be able to be wide. So I was like, my mission was, try to be as wide as I was tall. And, so that kind of got me into it to see like, hey, these are guys. And I was like, if I can get like that, get that big, maybe I won't be bullied anymore, it was that kind of thing. So, I was just in third grade, and my friends, I had a couple best friends that would watch it, and I'd go over their house, and we just, next thing I know, I'm hooked on it, and we're just, practicing the moves in the room, and all the stuff you're not supposed to do.
Right.
They tried this at home stuff. Of course, we were doing it because we're little kids, and then it was really cool because their parents were really supportive of the business, and they actually set up a wrestling ring in the backyard before one of the WrestleManias, and we all had different wrestling names. Now I'm going to date myself because this is like WrestleMania like 3 or something. I don't even know.
Sure.
It's a long time ago, but it was like, I remember I was Little John Studd. That was my
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I wrestled against another kid, a friend of mine named Junkyard Dan. So yeah, so it was pretty cool. So so that's kind of how I got my start, just being a fan from the time I was a little kid, and not wanting to be bullied anymore. So I actually started hitting the gym when I was like 11 years old. And so I started hitting this small little gym that was like a sweatshop, and I just started training, and just that's where it all just started to take place. Yeah.
Little John Studd. I was Kid Vicious, which I've heard is around a lot too. Hurricane Helms used to wrestle when he first broke in as Kid Vicious, so I feel like I'm in good.
Really?
Yeah.
He doesn't come across as like a Kid Vicious to me.
No, he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, no, he is. He is a really nice guy. Yeah, yeah.
So so third grade to the
Monster
almost
Factory.
backyard wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Then like you said, you're hitting the gym hard. Like, were you playing sports in high school as well too, or were you just focusing on the conditioning and getting big?
No, I actually, even though I was not the tallest guy, I was always like very athletic. So any sport that was there, I'd be going at it. I'd be going after it. So it didn't matter if it was basketball, wrestling, baseball, football, volleyball, hockey, boxing, all that stuff. I loved everything. I especially loved anything that was a combative type sport. That was always, especially once I started working out, I started getting more confidence. And even when I was a pipsqueak, I liked football just because it was, I just liked being able to have that physicality. So when I was able to, get a little bit more size to me, and that went along with my speed. I had a lot of speed. I think, I don't know if it was just genetics or the fact that I'd run home from kids when I was a little kid. So damn scared. I got some speed behind me, but yeah. So I don't know. I just had a lot of athleticism and a lot of enjoyment for sports in general. So sports and training just went hand in hand. And I was a gym rat from the time I was just a little kid on up. So
I wrestled in high school too, and I would imagine that somebody of your size, even back then, I mean, if you were hitting the gym as hard as you're saying, like, I got to imagine just with a little bit of technique, you were deadly out there.
I did all right. Yeah, I mean, there's some really good wrestling around New Jersey, really strong, and kids that come out of the womb wrestling. So I mean, from right off the bat, like from a technical standpoint, I was behind the 8 ball. But I will say that, my just natural athleticism, and I think my natural mind for combative sports, and I think also, of course, my speed and strength really helped me out. I definitely had some really quick pins on people that if I wouldn't have gotten from if I didn't have the athleticism, because I didn't have all the best technique at first, that didn't come until later on, more training and everything like that. So, yeah.
I had a guy in my school who had no wrestling technique at all, but he was very, very strong. Mm-hmm. So he'd just get out there and he would just manhandle guys because he had the strength. And it's like, wow, like the old adage, technique beats finesse. But if you got that strength behind you, man, you're dangerous.
Yeah, it's funny. One of the things I did learn, and I guess I was kind of lucky because I liked to box when I was a kid too. And one of the most important things I learned that helped me not only with wrestling but with professional wrestling was just conserving your energy. So because there's a ton of guys out there that are big and bad, like as far as like their strength and like ungodly strength, but what happens is they just gas themselves out so fast, and they don't know how to use just enough for what you need to conserve the rest of the energy. So
yeah, I imagine with all that footwork too from boxing and wrestling, I'm sure that kind of got you a little bit more advanced too when it came to the Monster Factory.
Well, it definitely did. It didn't hurt, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, just being athletic in general and getting the the gist of what it takes to do certain things, and also when you're watching it from the time you're a little kid and on up, and you're practicing, but of course you're doing half the stuff wrong probably. But by the time I got to the Monster Factory, I mean, I was watching it through college, and I had a couple really good buddies who we'd be watching it in the dorms, and then we'd be rewinding the tape, because it was on VHS tape. We'd rewind it, and we'd rewind it and watch it and watch it and watch it and watch it, and then we'd go out in the yard, and I'd be seeing what they did. I was seeing a whole bunch of stuff that's always working on the left side, and always the way they'd come off the ropes and the way they'd post and brace themselves and all that kind of stuff, the way they'd be bumping. I was learning that before I ever got in the ring. So, because I just studied it so much. And I also love studying just so many different people over time.
Sure.
That I got to see a lot of different things and learn before I even stepped foot in the ring. So when I went and tried out for the Monster Factory in October of 2000, Larry Sharp, Pretty Boy Larry Sharp, tried me out, and he said, you got a lot of natural talent, kid. I really like what you bring to the table. I think you got a lot of chances to a lot of potential to go someplace and do something. And at the time, I'm taking it with a grain of salt because I'm also giving him like $3,000 or something, whatever the price was.
Right.
Hey, yeah, you got what it takes if you got the cash.
You got a bright future as long as that check clears. We're good.
But I did believe in myself. I did know that I had some athletic ability that maybe some other people didn't possess. Even though I wasn't the tallest guy, I knew I had potential to at least do a little something. So.
Well, like around 2002, I mean, there was kind of a look. It's obviously changed a lot even since then. But even in 2000, you saw a lot of the smaller stature guys kind of break through in the business. Guys like Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho. I mean, none of these guys were over 6 foot, but they were starring on Nitro and Rey Mysterio, like not even the luchadors, just the technical wrestlers, Dean Malenko. You had a lot of guys who were not exactly 6'7", but were able to still be stars. So that's got to be kind of a good feeling for you too when you're getting into the training where when you and I were growing up, we saw these guys who are larger than life. They're so big, but you don't necessarily have to be 6 foot to be a superstar. Was there anybody, you said you studied a lot of tape. Was there anybody who you tried to pattern yourself after, or was there somebody that you just really liked that inspired you?
I wouldn't say that there was anyone in particular, that really said, I want to wrestle like that guy. I know there's a lot of people that are like, man, I just want to emulate that guy. I mean, I think I just took bits and pieces from different people, whether it would be certain techniques or certain types of, charisma or character or the way they would carry themselves, little things, from here and there. And I think that's kind of what kind of got me, to where I was as far as developing myself. I think people, I did love watching Jericho, when he was in Japan, and same with Benoit. I liked a lot of the really early stuff, that was really awesome stuff. Obviously awesome through their whole career. But
right.
I liked watching a lot of their stuff before they, were the big guys in WWE and stuff like that, and WCW. So, Benoit and Jericho were great. And obviously, Eddie Guerrero is phenomenal. There's just so many great people that have that stand above in their own way with their own little things that they do. So, but I mean, of course, like, then there's, of course, the main, the staples, like, your Stone Cold and guys like that. And, Piper and Jake the Snake and, I mean, Mr. Perfect. I mean, you can go, depending on the era, there's so many people that are just made. I mean, Savage, what a phenom he was. I mean, he's just phenomenal.
One of the greatest, man. Savage to me is like, I don't think he gets enough props. He doesn't get enough flowers, and he was a world champion in 2 different organizations, but Savage, man, his promos were money, his look was great, his in-ring was great. I mean, there was very few things to complain about when it came to Randy Macho Man Savage. He wasn't the biggest guy, and you put him next to Hogan, and he didn't look like a small dude. He looked huge.
No, I think he was like 5'10" or something. I don't think he was. Yeah, like I don't think he was like. If he was 6 foot, he's barely touching it. I mean, I know that, like, but just when you have that much talent, if you're close to 6 foot, I think sky's the limit,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, to go back to that, seeing the smaller guys start to come through, that was great. I was always like, I mean, I'm not really someone that had a Napoleon complex per se, but I was a little like pissy at times during my athletic career because things like in football, I had a 4.40 consistently, which is it's good. It's a good time if you know about a 40-yard dash combine time. It's really good. And one time I touched a little below it, but and I always prided myself on my speed and my strength. And especially in high school when I really kicked in and junior, senior year, and I started like really beefing up. But I was always so angry when I wouldn't get enough of the rock, when they wouldn't hand me the ball enough, So, but and I was like, give a short guy a chance. You're going to see what happens. And then like all of a sudden, years down the line, you see like Sproles, like Darren Sproles, and like you see like what's his face? God, there's so many good smaller backs. Played for the Saints. I can't remember his damn name. But anyway, bottom line, there's been some really solid shorter guys over time. Even now in the business, I mean, in football, there's some really good shorter running backs. So yeah.
I imagine you with the ball, either at running back or coming in as a fullback, you just truck people.
Yeah,
you had the size, man. I think you just plow right through people.
Yeah, it's funny because I'd always tell the coach, I'd say, Coach, I mean, I'm telling you, they can't see me behind the line. Right. There's so much so I'm going to already be going around the corner before they see me. So, but he would usually actually give me the ball up the middle when we need to get that first down. He's like, okay, we know he'll just push through for a 5-yard, 4 or 5 yards to get that first if we need it. So that's usually, how I used that. And I always ended up being a lead back, like lead blocking back. I'd be blocking the guy coming out around so I could just, clear the lane basically. So, yeah. So.
I was my high school's team version of Rudy, like I got to play like the last 5 minutes of the game, and I might get one good tackle and everyone would like celebrate it. But it's like, I had junk minutes, but it was fun.
But you're there and it's awesome. And you're in that competitive spirit and you're part of a team. And that's one of the other things I just loved about sports in general is that, you had that team atmosphere. It was like a brotherhood, a fraternity type of thing.
Oh yeah.
So, that's the thing I liked about team sports. It's great like that. Yeah.
I think it also does a lot in not that now we're going off a different subject here, but I think it does a lot for discipline too. I don't think that I would be where I'm at now in life had I not had some of those, moments as a youngster, as a teenager, facing adversity, trying through things. Like I was never the good athlete on my team, but I always had the heart. And that's what my coaches loved me because I had the heart. Maybe I wasn't the strongest guy out there, but I never quit. And that really, that fortitude kind of helped me out in life too, is, where I'm at now, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that kind of those moments. So I love sports for kids and teenagers and stuff. I think it's great for young men and women to have those experiences.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think team sports is one of the best things you can get involved in because it does teach you discipline and it teaches you so many different like aspects of how to work with people in general in the world. So I think it does. I think I have my degree in physical education, and I was a phys ed teacher for many years, and I would always tell kids, and people look at phys ed like, oh, you go out there and you play dodgeball or some crap, and it's like when I actually sit there and I say, look, physical education is so much more if someone who is teaching it makes it to be that, like I try to tell people, like, look, man, we could be teaching life skills on so many different levels. We could be teaching wellness and we could be teaching self-confidence and stuff you can't teach in other classes, your other basic math, writing, arithmetic, all, language, whatever, so I always say, people can crap all over physical education teachers or the physical education program, but if you're good and you want to make a curriculum that's, a good one, you could really change a kid's life, their whole attitude, their whole personality. I don't know how many times I had some kids that were like terrible at other subjects. Yeah. And they actually had bad self-esteem at those things, but and sometimes that would carry over into that, in the sports. But like, I try and do my best to say, hey man, this is your chance to show what you do have. Everyone's got their talents and their skills, but you could be a leader and you could be someone that is, respected and well liked. And, you can help other people eventually, by showing, that you're part of a team and things like that. So, there's a lot of different things that come along with being part of a team, which is great, motivation, knowing that, other people are depending on you and a million different things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's still wired in the old noggin. We're talking about 30 years ago, and I'm still having those memories and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's get back to Monster Factory. You're trying out. Larry gives you the pep talk, says he thinks you can be a star. What was that experience like? Because I know every wrestling school is different, but the Monster Factory, I mean, that's a world famous wrestling program. I mean, I live in Southern California, and out here there's we have a lot of schools. One of the best ones is the Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's from wrestlers. It's people who've broken into the business and did the old-fashioned way, learned how to do it. And a lot of their talent from that school are now in the WWE or in AEW. Right. And so you could see what a good wrestling school can do for you. Tell me about the Monster Factory, because I mean, I know there's lots of wrestling schools up and down the East Coast. I'm sure there's a dozen in New Jersey alone, but the Monster Factory is something special.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some really, big names, strong people have come through that, through that factory, through that school. And, back in the day, I remember when I signed up for it, they touted it as the Harvard of wrestling, the Harvard University of Wrestling.
I love it. That's perfect.
Yeah. Which, it's smart marketing, right? It's smart marketing. And, back then, you had wrestling schools, but, it was still kind of, it was also, you had a lot of people that were doing all their backyard bull crap at that time because of the ECW and stuff like that. And no knock on ECW. They ran their show the way they ran it, and they were a different product, which was great for the business because it did give something else. And it did kind of make things evolutionary in some aspects, and Paul Heyman is an absolute, genius in his own way and brilliant with, all the ways he brands and pushes things and crafts. He's very skillful, and I'm glad I had the pleasure of working with him, for a decent period of time. But yeah, I mean, back then it's you had some okay wrestling schools, but not many around. And and the internet wasn't what it was now, and searching things out and learning things online or whatever, we're learning where to go. It was still the dirt sheets and pretty much. And that, so, just to be able to have the Monster Factory, I was in college and I said to myself, I knew I was getting my teaching degree, but I was like, this was still my dream. This was still my childhood dream. And I said, hey, maybe if I go to, of school, I could become a weekend warrior or something, So I just happened to look it up. I was like, there's the Monster Factory, only 25 minutes from where I was living once I graduated. And so I was like, yeah, this is it, man. And they were really good. They really taught me the correct way, with a lot of things with the business, from, you know, the in-ring technical stuff, you know, a lot of the basic stuff at first, you know, got me going to learn properly, as opposed to, you know, just doing some backyard bull crap, or going to some seminars that, you know, are taught by some Yahoo who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. So, you know, so I was really lucky to do that. And, you know, he got me started on the right foot, which was crucial in the business.
I've heard it anyways. I mean, I've heard it from, you know, even somebody like Bully Ray, you know, his illustrious career, like his first foray into being trained, he felt like he got swindled and taken advantage of, because the school he went to wasn't the most, you know, prestigious. So I guess what my question is to you, are you glad that you went to the Monster Factory? Because it sounds like you learned a lot while you were there.
No, absolutely. I mean, like, I learned a lot while I was there. You know, it really definitely helped being able to go to a school, you know, 4 days a week, basically. You know, I'd go there so sometimes Thursday nights, and then Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And I got to, you know, work with the same people week after week, and you get comfortable with the same people, which is good, because when you're learning the ropes and you're being taught, it's good to kind of work with people that you feel comfortable with already, because, you know, trust is a big thing in the business. And it was great because I was learning properly, from, you know, the technical aspect of it to, you know, character development, you know, promo work and stuff like that. So it was really done well. I will say, I think it's, you know, may I say, it's even better, being done better now by Danny Cage, you know, who's running it now, who was there when I had broken in, and, you know, became friendly with him back then. But he's done great things to carry it on since, you know, Larry Sharp, and it's phenomenal. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, have you seen, like, I know Apple had that special, the wrestling documentary series on the Monster Factory. Did you check that out, and did it bring back the old memories?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, it was, you know, it was funny because it was like, it was different from when I was there. But I mean, I knew what it was now, because I'd stopped by and I visited and said hi to Danny and stuff. And I got to stop back in and say, hey, I still talk with him on Facebook and stuff, and he's still someone I respect and think he's doing a great job. So, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely different from when I was there, because when I was there, Pretty Boy Larry Sharp was running in this like little strip mall thing, and it was like you walked in, and it was funny because like these rings, there was like 2 rings in this like little, I mean, it wasn't a very big room, but there are 2 rings that were probably like, I want to say maybe like 12 by 12 or something, maybe not even that, maybe 10 by 10. I don't.
Wow. Yeah.
Not big. So running the ropes and stuff, and so it was a lot of close quarter, not a lot of room for stuff, and it was like lower ceiling, so you weren't learning to do all the stuff off the top. But it was good because you were also learning like the technical stuff, like the chain wrestling and stuff, and working on your character and your charisma. Charisma is natural, a lot of it, but I mean the just your, you know, character development and learning how to cut promos and that kind of stuff. So I mean, it was definitely a lot different from what you saw on Apple television, let's just say that. But I mean, Danny's really made it something. But it was a great place to start, and I'm just so happy that it's still going the way it is, and I'm glad that Danny got a chance to show that to everybody, how well of a program that is, what a good school it is. Yeah.
How was it different when you touched down in Ohio Valley? Because obviously that's a very different environment. I believe at the time Danny Davis was still doing a lot of the training down there in Ohio Valley.
Yeah.
How did that the juxtaposition of being in at the Monster Factory and then going to OVW, like how was that process for you?
Yeah. I mean, it was, I mean, as good as the Monster Factory was with, like, you know, having me learn the basics and, you know, stuff and get me a good base, a good ground to stand on to you know, continue my training and continue my education in wrestling was, I mean, it was great what they supplied me with. I'll say that, you know, in the Monster Factory, it was great. You know, but you were always working the same people. You would be, you know, doing the shows. It was always the same guys on the same shows. They didn't really bring outside people. It was pretty much, you know, basically like, you know, if you were part of the school, you did the shows, you know, and which is fine. That's great because, you know, you're kind of part of the crew, which was great. I had a lot of success. I was offered a lot of opportunity in the Monster Factory, and then I started doing shows outside the Monster Factory. I didn't do a ton of shows outside of the Monster Factory before I even went to OVW. I probably did like maybe 20 or so shows outside for like PCW, which was Phoenix Championship Wrestling, which was a guy named Donnie B, who was Mike Bucci, who was Simon Dean or Nova. Yeah. So basically, worked for them too, and had some good experiences with them breaking in. But once I got accepted to Ohio Valley Wrestling, it was their first ever WWE tryout camp to basically become part of OVW to work towards a developmental contract with WWE. So basically I was like, I saw it online and I was like, oh my gosh, this is, let me send in my application, my promo pick. And I sent it in, and I think there was like from around the world there, I think there was like 10,000 or so applicants, and they chose 50 people. And I was lucky enough to be one of them. And then we did like a week of training with Dr. Tom there and Danny Davis and Rip Rogers and other people from the WWE, just checking and watching, Rocky Johnson and the guys, and Jim Cornette, obviously. But yeah, man. So, I mean, I got there and I was just surrounded by so much great talent, that they chose from. And I was lucky enough to have a great week. And I remember at the time I just got done the training, the week camp tryout. And I guess it was like 2 months later, I got a call in April. And it was Jim Cornette. And I remember I was managing a fitness store at the time because I was trying to do more wrestling. So I got out teaching. I was doing more wrestling. And my buddy owned the store said, let me run it. And he called me and he goes, Tank, Jim Cornette, how you doing? And I was like, I mean, like when I picked up that phone, I saw the 502 area code from Louisville. And I was just like one of these, there's like, hey, Mr. Cornette, how you doing? He's like, great. Hey, say, we really liked you. We were just thinking, how would you like to become part of the OVW family and work towards a developmental contract with the WWE? And it was like one of those moments where I was just like inside. I was like a little girl, like, Sure. But no, I was so excited, so psyched. And I was just like, and I composed myself. I was like, absolutely. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And he's like, great. When can you get here? And I was like, let me just give me 2 weeks to not screw over people. And he totally respected that. And he's like, no problem. And I was out there in 2 weeks, drove to Louisville and, on Derby weekend, Kentucky Derby weekend. And it was just an amazing experience. And I'll never forget the first time I stepped into that OVW arena again, being part of that. I was so happy, but so intimidated when I first walked in there, all these people that have already come from there, like, Batista had just gone up there and John Cena had just gone up there and Randy Orton had just gone up there. So many people had just gone up and, it was a big deal. So we were like kind of like the next batch, and
does that, if I'm just trying to establish timelines in my own head, so it was like CM Punk still around while you came up through OVW, or was he?
I was there before CM Punk.
Oh, you were there before him. Okay.
Actually, I was there when he came in. I was actually the first guy to actually be nice to him. I think most people couldn't stand him at first. So
it seems like that hasn't changed a whole lot over the years.
It's funny. It's funny though. Like I don't know. We kind of just got each other right off the bat, and I got his sarcasm, and I got his attitude. And he wasn't that he was a dickhead. He kind of really what he was just more of a sarcastic bastard, and you either got him or you didn't.
Sure.
And he had already been around the business a long time, done a lot of stuff, had a lot of respect in the business. But once people kind of got to know him more, they got to like him, and the locker room did like him. We all liked him. I liked him. I still, he's one of the guys that when I got released, he's like one of the first guys to call me. He's like, yo, man, that's bull crap. He's like, hey, let me call, Gabe at ROH and tell him that you're free now. And, we'll get you working over there. So, I have a lot of respect for him, regardless of what other people think of him or what he's done in the business. When it comes to the business, he's smart in more ways than he is dumb. He has shot himself in the foot a few times, but he's also taken a lot more risks that have worked out than haven't. And it shows by his paycheck and how much revenue he's created for companies. He puts asses in seats. He knows how to get himself over. And, I have all the respect in the world for that, so.
The same. I never met him personally. I've known people who know him, and obviously they have, mixed reactions, but when he signed with AEW, he changed the landscape of that company. And no matter what anyone wants to say about him, like he was the number one merch seller. He had asses in the seats. Every time they were in Chicago, it was a sellout. And as soon as he was gone, all of a sudden that just changed. So
That's what it goes.
If you can do business, you can do business. And
right.
Anyways, that's a different subject altogether. But
yeah.
You walk into Monster Factory with the hopes of, maybe doing this as a part-time gig, maybe doing it on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
You get there and you're getting booked outside. Then you're getting opportunities to go to Ohio Valley and try out. And then you debut for Ohio Valley. Like, these are a lot of big time events, big things that are coming up to you, life-changing moments, wrestling milestones. Obviously each one seems to get bigger and bigger. You leave, you leave the Monster Factory to go to Ohio Valley. You make that debut in Ohio Valley. And then of course you're working towards the WWE deal. Tell me about all that positive momentum. I mean, did you feel like you were destined to be in the WWE, or did you still feel like I got to just kill myself to get here?
It's funny because being an athlete my whole life and believing in myself my whole life, no matter what it was I was doing, it was really what kind of got me places to begin with. And, that and just the amount of dedication I put into everything. Even before I got to, WWE or OVW, or, I was in the gym every day and I remember literally being on the bench press or something. And every rep was WWE.
Right.
Just driving myself and picturing it and manifesting before manifesting was the thing, you know? Right. Yeah. So, but and so I always had a lot of confidence and a lot of belief in myself, but I'll say, man, I had a lot of stuff going my way. And even when I got to OVW, man, I couldn't believe how, not lucky, but I was lucky to be given the opportunity, but they believed in me. I mean, they believed in me right off the bat. Jim Cornette and Danny Davis, man, right off the bat, when I got there, the first match I had was against Doug Basham, who was the OVW champion. And, it was, I was to, basically, he got over on me, but it was a good rub for me too, because it wasn't a squash match. They actually gave me a match and they said, hey, let's bring this new guy in and shine him up and make him something for, moving forward. So that was my first match, and it was a fun match, and he gave me a lot. And then the very next week, Randy Orton was back in town because he was just getting over, shoulder surgery and recovering. So he's getting back, knocking ring rust off. And they gave me, him for the next week. And that was a lot of, I remember thinking holy shit, I do not want to hurt this guy by accident, because, I don't want to be that guy, when he's just coming back. But, we had a good match and, and we worked together well. And, I was the first guy to take his RKO, and it was just a good match. And then I don't know if it was a week or two after that, they decided to, tag me up with Chris Cage, and we became the tag team champions. And it was just, from there on, it was just rolling. So, I just felt so much confidence. And then all those nerves that I felt when I first got there, just kind of went away because I was getting the opportunities, because I saw that they believed in me. But more so was that locker room, all the people that were there, man, we got along so well. It really became a brotherhood. That locker room was like a family. Danny and Julie, his wife, were a second mom and dad to me. And Jim was Yoda you know.
There you go.
And I was in a tag team, so like, you know, for me to be in a tag team, like that's his thing, you know, tag teams. So when he put me in a tag team, you know, and he made, you know, put the titles on myself and Chris, you know, I knew he believed in me, and it was so amazing to learn from someone like that, who's just an absolute like encyclopedia of wrestling and genius when it comes to psychology and getting yourself over and promos and all that. So, you know, and getting heat. He gets heat, motherfucker, man.
He still gets heat, and he hasn't been on TV in years.
Yeah, but I mean, like, man, I mean, he knows how to do it. But yeah, but I mean, no matter what people say about Jim, how crazy he is or whatever, you know, I love Jimmy, and I will always be so appreciative to the opportunity that him and Danny gave me. It's, you know, I wouldn't have gotten to where I was if it hadn't been for them, or at least not as easily. So
I met Cornette at an NWA show, you know, back when they first started in with Billy Corgan's NWA, and nicest guy, man. Like, I was just a guy with a camera taking a picture, and you know, people don't know this, but Cornette's a photographer.
Well, I was gonna say that's how he started out.
Yeah, and so he starts telling me like how to use my camera, because I'm just an idiot that's holding an expensive camera, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you got to change setting here, change setting there," and then he's like showing me how to take better photos. I'm like, and I'm just some asshole and standing in the crowd, you know, and he took the time to do that, and that meant a lot to me more than anything else he says. He just treated me like a regular dude, and that was pretty cool. So I have a high opinion of Jim Cornette as well, and yeah, just going back to that time in OVW when you win the tag titles, I mean, it wasn't like you were wrestling some, you know, no-name tag team. You literally were wrestling Lance Cade and Mark Jindrak. Jindrak was, you know, achieved a high level of success with WCW, being a former tag team champion there, and you know, obviously part of the Invasion angle, he came over, and you know, I know they were repackaging him and stuff, but you know, Cade was the late Lance Cade was a great dude. He had had a lot of history with the NWA as well. Yeah. And I mean, those are two perennial superstars that they put you in the ring with and put you over. And of course, you know, I know that those guys were heading back to the main roster, but I mean, that says a lot about what they thought of you and Chris to put that match for you guys and allow you to have that victory over that tag team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like when we were given that opportunity, it was a big deal. You know, I never, you know, undersold it for sure, because I just realized the, you know, the magnitude or gravity of what it was, and realizing that, you know, I know that they're going up to the main roster, so they got to drop it, you know, drop the titles. And, you know, just like we did years later when I went up to the, you know, or a little while later after I went up, you know, and I was like very appreciative and, you know, very like, you know, I had a lot of respect for them. And I think it was just like a big pat on the shoulder saying, hey, we're going to give you guys the shot to now, you know, use this to, you know, use these titles to help elevate you guys. And hopefully you guys will be coming up after us, and, you know, and Jim and Danny and, all the people that were involved, you know, they believed in us. And that was just a great, you know, another, you know, shot of confidence for sure, you know, so. Yeah.
When did you get the word that you were going to be making your move to the main roster?
Well, yeah, that's kind of funny because at first, you know, I was wrestling with Chris Cage, who when he went up to the WWE, he was under a different name, but we were in a tag team called Adrenaline, and then this guy Chad Wicks, who ended up ultimately becoming my tag partner up in the WWE. They signed him, and they're like, oh, well, you know, they're going to send him OVW to get him, you know, fine tuned. And, you know, and they said, oh, well, these two guys, they have similar height, similar builds, similar looks. Let's just, you know, put them together as a tag team. So that ended my time with Chris. So I did a heel turn, and the next thing I know, you know, Chad is my cousin. And we're the Tolands, that were the Blonde Bombers or whatever, and that was my first heel turn, and it was great because I love being heel. I love being a heel is just phenomenal. It's so much fun. but that's kind of like, it was funny because like right before I just turned heel, and when I turned on Chris Cage, and I was you know, hitting him in the ring, I felt a little snap in my arm. and it hurt. And I was like, what the heck was that? Saw the trainer's like, you probably just strained a muscle, just take it easy on it. And I was doing electric stim on it. And over the course of 2 weeks, I kept feeling go ping, ping, ping. And then finally I hit cage with the chair shot, and I felt the whole tendon just rip off the bone. And like my bicep just rolled all the way up into my arm. And so which really sucked because it was very bad timing. Because that was on a Wednesday for the TV taping, and then on Friday, the WWE, like Stephanie McMahon, the writers, Johnny, like people were coming to watch us and see who they liked and who they were wanting to look to bring up. So there was no way in hell I was going to miss that, even though I just torn my bicep. So at that time, Tommy Dreamer was was basically the right hand man of Johnny Ace, and, he'd taken over Dr. Tom's spot and for talent relations. And I went there and I wrestled a couple matches on that Friday with a torn bicep, cut promos, and I was in the back and I felt like it went well. And I was in the back getting a drink in the locker room area, and Tommy Dreamer came up to me and said, "Hey, Tank, I got good news and bad news." And they're like, "Stephanie absolutely loves you. She wants to bring you up right now. She wants to put you on the roster right now and bring you up. But I had to tell her you just tore your bicep, and you got to get surgery. You have to."
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, man, come on, man. I mean, literally my tears started welling up.
Sure.
I thought, hey, I'm under developmental contract and, they could just let my ass go, So yeah. Right as he's telling me, Stephanie walks into the back and she comes up and she's like, "Hey, Tank," she's like, "I just heard that, I'm so sorry that, you tore your bicep." It's just like, "Look, I don't want you to worry. We're not going to do it. We're not going to let you go or nothing. You're safe." He goes, "As soon as you get healed, we want to bring you up." And so it was bittersweet, but, because I got the pat on the back, but at the same time, it's like, I still got to, go through all this, recovery. So
what an amazing vote of confidence, though. The daughter of the chairman of the board, who had a lot of power back in those days. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And I'll say that, as far as that family goes, she was a sweet person. She really was. I can't say anything bad, about, her in general. I mean, she was always very nice to me, very polite. But it really, really sucked. So I healed up, and during the time I healed up, I never missed one show. I came out like in a wheelchair with a neck brace, pretending that I got beat up by Cage in the back, my arms in a sling. And I still cut promos every week, and I was on television every week, and it was great. It was a great angle. And I did some of my best mic work and writing of promos during that time, to the point where WWE office saw it and liked what I was writing and liked the way I cut promos. And so when I did eventually go up and become one of the dicks, and we were doing backstage vignettes, they let me write my stuff. So, which is big, because not a lot of people would get to do that.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah,
no, that's real big. That's huge.
So when we got brought up, we weren't even supposed to be the dicks. We were just supposed to be Simon Dean's henchmen. Like, we were supposed to be his like lackeys, like two, muscle head guys. But then they, they ended up changing that, because we were running. We were starting to run into the ring from like the audience and just take out who had ever just wrestled, take out the winner of that. We just, whoop them, lay them out. And then, we did that for a couple weeks. And then one time I ran into the ring doing that. We'd always wear black tank tops and black slacks. And one time we were doing that, and I just ripped off my shirt, and threw it, and all fired up, and went into the back. And Vince was just like, "Oh man, I really like the way you ripped your shirt off and you threw it and you got the black slacks on." He's like, "You reminded me of a Chippendale." And he's like, I'll tell you what, next week come back with Chippendale look. I want to see what that would look like. So I was like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "I got an idea." Because Vince has had some good ideas in his days, but he's also had some real fucking stinkers.
Sure.
Yeah, pardon my French, but okay. So basically, next week, so during the week, we went to our seamstress, said, "Hey, can you make this up real quick?" We had our gimmicks made up, our gear made up rather, and came back and we showed him. He's like, "Oh, I love it." He goes, "All right." And next thing you know, so Stephanie says, hey guys, come up with a wrestling name and make it something wrestling but sexy. I mean, but like wrestling but Chippendale. And I said, okay, I'll think about it. So I was thinking about it and brainstorming with Simon Dean with Nova and came up with the name Weapons of Mass Seduction.
There you go.
Yeah, and I thought that was cool because it's wrestling. It's tough, but it's like seduction.
It was also timely at the time,
right? And my whole thought was like, if we're gonna do this character, I'd love to do it like a Rick Rude, Val Venus crossover type mashup, or something along those lines. So but unfortunately, we were on SmackDown, and when you're on SmackDown, it's network television. I mean, it's network television. It's earlier hours. It's a little bit more family friendly, especially then. They're trying to go this like little family friendly route. Not good to be a dick on a family friendly type of situation. So anyway, but we got the dicks because we became the dicks because as I was telling Stephanie right out ringside when everyone was training, I said, so I'm thinking like Weapons of Mass Seduction, and she's like, oh, I love that. And then all of a sudden, out the corner of my ear, I hear, "Why don't we call him the Swinging Richards?" And I was like, son of a bitch. I look at, and I know whose voice it was because I turned my head. I was like, there is fucking Michael Hayes, fucking running his fucking mouth, and God, that still pisses me off to this day. So it's bad enough when you're our height, and
sure.
And you're a freaking Chippendale looking guy, especially when you were used to being Tank, and it's and my whole persona before was like, I'm like a pit bull. I'm not the biggest dog in the fight, but you're gonna have to kill me to beat me type of deal,
Right.
So now I'm all of a sudden going to something else, and it's all fine and good. I was gonna try and make it work the best I can and try and survive it until how many people could become something else later on. You're not always Isaac Yankem,
Great point.
But when it comes down to it, that's, she's like, I looked at her and she's like, don't worry, I'll handle it. And it didn't get handled. It went from Swinging Richards to the Swinging Dicks to then to the Dicks eventually. So, and I found out I was going to be we were going to be the Dicks, like literally 5-10 minutes before we were going out for our first like debut matches, the Chippendales types thing. So, so that was how it went. And I just remember like hearing that, like, she's like, you're going to be, so you guys are going to be the Dicks. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, she's like, you're going to be James Dick and he's going to be Chad Dick. And I was like, damn, and I thought like, can't I just be Tank Dick? It's still cool.
Sure.
But I just thought that. And I was like, okay, well, my mom's going to be proud of this one. So, yeah.
Sorry.
It's all good. Good thing my mom has a really good personality and sense of humor. So, so, we went out there and I just remember thinking what Jim Ross had said later on when he heard about it. And he goes, well, that's got a limited shelf life, So, yeah. So, but we tried to make the best of it. But I was really concerned when I was doing these vignettes and I was writing some really good vignettes that were really popping the boys backstage and everyone's laughing. And I get, messages back from like Vince and Triple H, they're laughing their balls off in the office, blah, 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 blah. 5 minutes later after that, like, hey, you got to go recut it because it's not going to make it through the censors. I was like, son of a gun. So, a lot of stuff got watered down. I told Stephanie, hey, look, I'm concerned about how this is going to be because, this is more of a gimmick or characters that should be on Raw, not if we want to do it right. She goes, don't worry, we'll make it work. We'll figure it out. And I was like, okay. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Well, sorry, I just talked your ear off on that one.
No, that's the joy of doing this the podcast is like hearing these stories. Like that's incredible, man. I mean, when you think about it, you went in one direction. You were expecting to be one thing, and then injury happens, and you get. It's the old adage, you make lemonades with some lemons, and it sounds like you had to make a lot of lemonade during that time because the injury, the name change, the gimmick change, and then the PG rating. That's certainly going to slow down some of that forward momentum too. Yeah. One of the questions in the chat came up, and I wanted to wait to ask you till you're on talking about SmackDown, but it comes from John Redondo, who says, hey Tank, how is wrestling the Boogeyman, and who suffered the worms, you or Chad?
Ah man, Boogie, my boy Boogie. wrestling, the Boogeyman. Well, let me start off by saying I knew Boogeyman from the first moment he walked into the ring at OVW, and he's one of the most nicest, genuine guys you'll ever meet, and also in phenomenal shape. He's and what a hard worker he is. And I love him. We all, he's one of my brothers, but and he wasn't, technical wrestling wasn't his strong suit.
Sure.
I think he knows that. But charisma and character and great idea. He's got his strong suit, we all are strong in different ways. And he definitely was a phenomenal performer, and I love Boogie. And I was happy that I got to be in the ring with him, even though that was my very last match in WWE. It was just great because he's a good guy. So I'm glad that I got to, finish it there if I had to finish it. But I wasn't the one to take the worms. I was like, yeah, Chad, you can take that one. No, I don't really care. I'll do business. I'll pretty much do anything. I won't, I won't on the indies. I won't gig. I won't draw my own blood.
Right.
That's one thing I just won't do. You're not going to pay me enough. I'm not going to pay. You're not going to pay me. This is a moneymaker, man.
Look. I wasn't going to say it. But we're all.
I'm just kidding. But they say, oh, red means green. But
not always.
But at the same time, I feel like you can get yourself over and you can have a great match. I've had many great matches without having to, or at least in my opinion, maybe some people would think they're shit, but no, you can have great matches without having to go overboard with a lot of crazy stuff. So,
look, I've never been a booker, but I imagine when you show up into the arena and you look the way that you do, you're big dude. Obviously you spend a lot of time perfecting your look. I don't need you to bleed. I need you to look like a rock star. I need you to look like the tank that you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't need you to gig. I need you to look strong. And either you're making my guy look good by getting pinned, or you're looking good, and we're planning to use you more because you got this value not only in your past experiences, but plus how you look today. Like, I put your face on a poster and everyone says, oh shit, that dude looks huge,
Yeah.
And that's no disrespect intended to guys who are smaller, but you and I come from kind of the same era. When we grew up watching wrestlers, there was Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, and even Ricky Steamboat and Macho Man Savage. They all looked huge. They were big.
Absolutely. Snuka. So many guys, so many guys. It's funny. And then you looked all Jack in the poster, and then they meet you in person. It's always like, oh, I thought you'd be taller.
That's fair.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, but no. But as far as it goes, man. There's, and I'm not taking that away from people who have made their money in the business doing that kind of stuff. Look at Mick Foley. Mick Foley was an extreme guy, and there's but also with him there was so much more to him. What a hell of a worker he was.
Absolutely.
Jesus. That guy. And not only that, one of the nicest, probably maybe the nicest guy that I ever met in the business outside of Matt Capitelli, who, he never got to unfortunately make it up to the big time. He unfortunately passed. But Mick Foley was one of the nicest people you could ever meet. And, he was a fantastic guy. And I can't believe that, I can't believe the beatings he took.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think also too, that's the great thing about wrestling. It's, I love to say that it's a sport, but it's also performance art, right? And everything is different, and every person brings a different piece of the story, right? And so not everyone needs to look like Tank Toland. Not everyone needs to look like Mick Foley. Not everyone needs to look like, Aaron Stevens. Everyone has their own look. Everyone has their own vibe, and when you tell a good story, you're able to take elements from this character and this person and put it together. And when you watch a movie, any movie in Hollywood, like any good movie, it's not just about one dimension. You try to make it multidimensional and to appeal to a larger mass. Same thing with wrestling. As a fan, I'm saying like if it appeals to a greater spectrum, that's a good thing. We
Absolutely.
want to attract as many people to the sport, to the art as we can. You had said it earlier that CM Punk had put in a word with Gabe for you to get to Ring of Honor after. I mean, obviously it's a disappointing moment. You had worked so hard to get to the WWE. You got there. You had some time there, but obviously I don't think that you were completely fulfilled as much as you probably would have liked to have been. What was it like stepping backwards, but also stepping forwards with Ring of Honor?
That's a good way of putting it. It is stepping backwards, but yet still stepping forwards. That's really definitely, I never even thought about it like that, but it's definitely a really good way of putting it for sure. I'll say, first off, it was unfortunate that my time in the WWE was cut short, just because, I felt like I had so much more I could show people. I don't feel like I even got a chance to even scratch the surface of what I could show people of what my abilities were. And that kind of ticked me off, just because it's, when you've wrestled, years of wrestling, and you felt like you've had a lot of success and really shown some good work over the years, and then all of a sudden you go up there and you get, you don't get to show yourself to the magnitude that you could, or that you would like to show people how good you actually are. It kind of stinks, because, and I try to not even think about it. Like when people, oh God, that guy was a piece of shit in the business and he didn't do shit. I know that a lot of them are people in their mom's basement, that kind of shit, they're just trolls. But at the same time, it's just like, I wish I could have at least shown a little bit more of what I had to, what my abilities were. So that kind of sucks. And that's something I'm always like, damn, I wish I could have just showed them more. But and also during that time in the locker room, that was a really rough time in the locker room. A lot of cancerous type people, and it was just a tough time. But and being a new guy, of course, you're going to get hazed, and you're going to get all this stuff done to you, which is fine. It's not a problem. I had no problem with it. My tag team partner, on the other hand, didn't handle it so well. But when you get to that point and you get saddled with a gimmick that you're not really comfortable with, but you want to work at it, and then you have a partner that you never really gelled with from the start. That's tough, because and then all of a sudden you start to question yourself, you start to question your work, you start to question, am I good enough? And then you're like, oh, I'm around all these other superstars that have done it. And then you start to have imposter syndrome, which is, I had a lot of that going on when I was there, man. So it's like, out of all the years of confidence and boosting myself up and all the success I had, it was crazy that I lost so much of that in that short amount of time when I was in WWE. So when I tell people that, I lived out my dream, I did. I made it to the top, not to the magnitude I wanted to, but I did. But I always have that regret that I didn't get to, get that. And that it was crazy that I just got that shot of imposter syndrome that I never would have thought I had gotten, So when I got released, and then, Punk, gave a call to Gabe, and I started talking to them, and they brought me in. It was fantastic, because I went back to that, and they don't really those Ring of Honor people don't really like to take to WWE people. At least they didn't back then. It's like, oh, you coming from the WWE, all that bull crap wrestling that's on TV like that. No, they were more like the extreme, or not extreme, but they're they're more into their strong style Japanese, almost crossover type. It's like and they're very passionate, and I love them for that. And so when I got there, and I got to take on a new persona and get back to being Tank, but I got to be the heel version of myself, which was fantastic. I was being the all natural superior athlete Tank Toland. It was fantastic, and I was in this fun stable, Sweet and Sour Incorporated, with Chris Hero and Larry Sweeney and Bobby Dempsey. It was a lot of fun, So, but.
Did you work with Adam Pearce as well during that time?
I did work with him as well. Yeah, and he's great. I love Adam. I love all the guys. I'll tell you what, man. I always tell people that that was the point I was trying to make, was I got to live out my dream of being WWE, but the best times I ever had were OVW and Ring of Honor. Those were the two best times I had, as far as the camaraderie, the brotherhood, I mean, aside from Monster Factory, when I first got my start, I got a couple really good friends, lifelong friends from that. But I mean, like, OVW and Ring of Honor were like, that was like a brotherhood, and we took care of each other, and we were always there to try and make sure that we had the best matches and support each other, watch each other's stuff. And, it was really phenomenal time to be there, because it was hot, man. Ring of Honor during that time was really hot. And I got to have a lot of fun and have some fun matches. So, yeah. And I got my confidence back. So
yeah, well, and that's a huge thing. And when you said that, like that hit me like a ton of bricks, because I'm not a pro wrestler. I don't have anything that's ever been like that. But even as just a podcaster, right, you get that imposter syndrome. You're like, I've got 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. Why the hell are you guys watching my content? It's not good. You have to tell yourself, like, no, that's not the case. You have to find value in yourself, and sometimes that's the hardest thing, man. It
is. It really is. I mean, it's really, sometimes your toughest critic is yourself when you and that's the way I've always been. But that's also something I always used to drive myself as well. So it's it's a double-edged sword for sure. But at the same time, sometimes you just got to look at yourself and say, look, I'm just doing the best I can. And, hopefully, people will appreciate it. And you're like, you're doing this podcasting, and, you didn't start out with 5,000, so you got to give yourself credit for what achievements you make.
Oh, yeah. All the highs, all the lows. Yeah, man. And that's the thing. Mental health. Like, I'm a big proponent of mental health, and I don't mean this to sound like an asshole or anything, but I think everyone should be in therapy, right? I think everyone should benefit from just talking to somebody and talking through your struggles, because
absolutely
we don't have to do this alone.
No, absolutely. Hey, look, I'll tell you straight off the bat, like, I will echo what you just said. Everyone should be, doing some type of therapy, because it's just good for you. It's just good, being a health and phys ed person. And, I always tell people, it's wellness. Wellness is not just, being physically well. It's being well mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it is. It's an all-encompassing thing. So, I think it's important that, you take care of yourself in all aspects. So, that's
awesome.
Yeah. And also sometimes just cut yourself some damn slack,
Yes, absolutely. You know what? I liked you before, but I really like you now. Your stock just went up in my book.
I appreciate it, buddy.
Getting to Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
Now that's, like you said, that's a completely different world from the WWE. I mean, it's similar in that you're wrestling, but the audience is different. Yeah. The style of wrestling is a bit different. Did your time in Ring of Honor make you a better wrestler, or did it just show you how to change styles? Like, did it make you a better performer, or did you already have those skills in your toolbox?
I think that each match, each promotion, each person that you come into contact with, or every match you work, it's an opportunity and to improve upon yourself and your work. And I think I did become a better wrestler, even if my skill set didn't necessarily change that much. I continued to learn about the business and grow, and network and get new relationships and see how other people do things. And Ring of Honor definitely, especially because when I first started working the business, it was a small group of people, Monster Factory. Then I got to venture out a little bit into the independents, and I remember my first match I was in a tag team, and it was I just did a tag team match. It was a one-off. It was these two twins called the Power Company, and it was me, and they put me with Gilbert. If you remember Gilbert. Yeah. So that was like actually my first match outside of Monster Factory, and it was so funny. It was a funny match. I mean, it was a little bit of a shit show, but just doing my best. And I mean, it wasn't a terrible match, but it was like it was just like a funny thrown together thing. But but yeah, you learn a little bit each time, and you're just knocking a little bit more green off every time.
Sure.
And and I'll never forget, like, the first time I ever wrestled Joey Mercury. He had already had a developmental contract once. He's back on the independents, and I remember I was working and I did a match with him, And I remember I was pinning him. I was going over on him, and I was still pretty green. And I remember I was pinning him, and as I was pinning him, I didn't hook his leg. And they're counting 1, 2. He goes, hook my fucking leg. I hooked his leg real quick, like, oh, sorry. Yeah. But because him and Christian York had a developmental contract, I think, for a very short amount of time before he got his big time chance as Eminem with Johnny Nitro and stuff like that. And he was a guy that I really liked in the business because we were in OVW at the same time too. And it was just great. And he was around for the longest time, and really he was a really smart guy when it came to the business and how to work and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, you always are learning something. No matter, if you open yourself up to it. I mean, there's a lot of boneheads in wrestling too, who just think that they're just going to go in there and get themselves over and they're going to do what they want. And, it's just like the more humble you are and the more that you realize that you can learn from everything and everybody, no matter if they're better than you or not, like in whatever aspect, like you could always learn something. So, yeah. So to make a short answer long as friggin' hell, I think I got better each and every time I'm out there, and I feel like come the 25th or the 28th rather, I'm gonna learn a little bit more.
Well,
and hopefully I can give a little bit too.
Well, you said knocking the green, and when we're talking about Flag Boy Connor, he's got a very big mouth, and Jim Molyneux is looking to shut that mouth. And so I mean, of course, you call Tank. You got a problem, you call Tank. Yeah. I used to hear this story from Adam Pearce when he was in Ring of Honor, that any time that somebody got out of line, it's like send in Dark City. And I feel like Jim Molyneux is like, hey, send in Tank, because Connor's kind of been running his mouth, getting involved in matches. And, I don't know that he is ready for you come September to the 28th, almost at October, Saturday, September 28th in Riverton, New Jersey. Tell me about your return to DAWG. It's been a while, but I think this is a new start for them. They had taken some time off from their non-college shows that they've been doing. They were running in Glassboro quite regularly, but this will be their first time in Riverton, and you'll be with them for this event. So tell me what you have in store for Connor the Flag Boy.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually did a show that they did for DAWG. I did a show for DAWG. They did an outdoor show at Glassboro back in the spring, I think it was, and got to work their champion at the time, and it was was it that? Yeah, it was. Anyway, it was like, it was a good time. It was a good time when I worked there, and but I did run into to those clowns, those knuckleheads, and yeah, man, he's a cocky little bastard, I'll tell you. The way he runs his mouth, for someone so green in the business. Yeah. It's funny. But I didn't say anything because I'm a cordial person, and but I did say to Jim, I was like, hey, what's this guy's deal? He kind of has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, but yet he just carries around a flag, it seems like, and I was like, all right. All right, well, just keep me posted on that guy, Yeah. 'Cause I'm not curious. And sure enough, I get the call, not that long, not that long after, a few months maybe, and they're like, "Hey, want you to help us out here." And I was like, "Okay, no problem. What is it?" And when they told me, I was like, "Absolutely, I'm happy to knock a little green off someone if I have to."
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah. So, but no, I'm looking forward to it. It's always fun to get in the ring and teach a new guy the ropes.
Yeah. You're doing him a favor with every strike, with every lariat, with every body slam. You're doing him a favor.
It's all learning lessons, man. It's all learning lessons. So luckily enough, he, at least from what I understand, I haven't heard him run his mouth about me. I'm not sure what his take is on stepping in the ring with me. But I will say that it doesn't matter if he's in, Vatican City. I mean, he's going to be in a church but it ain't gonna help him. So he can say his prayers, take his vitamins, do his training, whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're in church. It doesn't matter if you're in a synagogue. It doesn't matter where you are. You're gonna get a lesson taught to you, and that's what's gonna happen. So
I love it. I love it. I can't wait. I think the fans in Riverton are going to be very excited to see you in action. Of course, Goldie will be there. Breaker Morant will be there. There's going to be a lot of great wrestling on the 28th. I think this is going to be one of the best events all year for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. And I know that the fans in Riverton are going to be lucky to be there live. And of course, all the fans that watch on YouTube as well. All those matches go up there. Tank, I really appreciate your time, man. You're a pleasure to talk to. I've known about you. I watched your wrestling in 2004. I got to admit I wasn't watching Ohio Valley, but I did see you on SmackDown, and I've seen your matches in DAWG, and it's really cool to meet the guy who I've been watching for such a long time, and wishing you nothing but the best and all the luck on the 28th and beyond. So
thanks, Jay.
Best of luck.
I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure as well, man. And if I could just say one last thing,
absolutely,
because I want to touch on something that you said a long time ago, and it's something that I always told students when I was training people in OVW after I was done wrestling on TV. I still one of the trainers at OVW for the up and coming guys, and people would always ask me, hey, do I have the look? Do I have what it you think I got what it takes? And I'd say there is no look. There is no, there is no one thing that makes you a superstar. And I always say, and they say, should I get into the business? Or someone asks me, and I'm always like, look, first off, you only get into the business if you're like 1,000% wanting to do this, and you have 100, like everything in you is that passion that you want to do it, because it will beat the crap out of you physically, mentally, emotionally, pillar to post, right? And 99.9% of the time, you're not going to get the success that you would hope for, I mean, it's to make it to the big time, to make it to like WWE, for instance, that's harder to make it to a professional sports team. There's less roster spots, so, I do temper, when I tell people that, hey, look, you gotta want it more than anything else. You got to put in the work and the dedication. But at the same time, have grounded expectations, but reach for the sky, that whole crap. But at the same time, realize that anything's possible. If a guy my height, can go out there and make it through just hard work and determination and just working it, someone that's built like a twig can do it. So it's all about what are they looking for at that time, timing. You just get luck. Sometimes it's just right place, right time, right gimmick. There's people like that wouldn't have made it as one character but got over as another, and Santino Morello is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
So he's a badass judo dude from Canada, and a great guy. He's really good at real physical combat, but in the ring he had a tightness to him, and they were trying to give him this tough guy thing, like shooter type of thing, and it just wasn't working for him. But then all of a sudden he did this comedy act with the Santino Morello, because they said, hey, can you speak Italian? And he did what he's supposed to do. He said, yes, I could, even though he couldn't speak a lick. He taught himself how to do it, how to do the best accent he could within a certain amount of time. And man, did he get over. So, it doesn't matter what your abilities are, what you're built like. It's just like, if you believe in yourself and you work hard enough and you get the right opportunities that fit with you, you can be anyone and make it. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Just keep pushing, brother. But thank you. I want to thank you for everything.
Yeah, man. And again, wishing you nothing but the best. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your patience and joining us today. And I just hope that you don't actually kill Flag Boy Connor. But if it happens, if he dies, he dies, A
little Ivan Drago for you.
There it is.
Yeah, right. No, but absolutely, man. No deaths. Just a good lesson.
There it is. All right. Well, thanks for your time. And then we're going to wrap it up here. Again, follow Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. They're on social media, on X, on Instagram, on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. If you're going to be there, bring your tank signs, cheer them on, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a great night.
You too.
Take care. Bye.
That's Tank Toland. That was his home gym, Kikuchi. You're right. That was his home gym. That dude is such a good dude. I'm so glad that he joined us today. Want to thank Dr. Lawrence Zirconium for setting up that interview. And again, we'll be back with more of the Alliance blog next week. Hope you'll be with us. And until next time, we will see you at the match. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at the Alliance blog. And until next time, we are